Most men don't lose their sex life after 60, they unknowingly destroy it. Not in one day, not in one mistake, but slowly, through tiny habits they never realized were doing any harm. Like skipping one small routine after sex, holding back a natural urge, or trying too hard to perform like they used to. At first it seems normal. You feel a little discomfort after intimacy, but you brush it off. You stop wanting it as often and blame it on age. You feel a strange pressure or burning, but don't talk about it, not even with your doctor. That's exactly what happened to Martin, a 69-year-old former high school coach from Michigan. He hadn't touched his wife in months. He still loved her deeply, but something about intimacy had become uncomfortable, confusing, so he avoided it, until the day he ended up in my office, with chronic pelvic pain and early signs of prostatitis. Here's the truth no one told Martin. There are 7 hidden habits quietly damaging the prostate of millions of older men every day. And the worst part? They're completely preventable if you know what to change. So today, as a urologist, I'm not just sharing medical advice. I'm begging you, stop these mistakes before it's too late. And the first one? It might be something you're doing right now. Let me ask you something no one ever dared to ask you at 60, 65, or even 70. What if it's not aging that's weakening your intimacy, but your habits? That quiet ache, that drop in desire, that awkward moment when you hesitate to be close again. It doesn't come from nowhere, and it's not just part of getting older. The truth is, most older men haven't been warned. No one ever told you that how you treat your body during intimacy, and even after, can determine the health of your prostate, your bladder, your sexual confidence, and your future. But I'll tell you now, because someone needs to. You could be doing everything normally and still be quietly hurting your prostate, and you wouldn't know until one day your body sends a signal you can't ignore. You see, most men think prostate problems only show up as trouble peeing or waking up at night, but it often begins with something much more subtle, a feeling of pressure in your pelvic area after sex, a weird sting when you urinate, or just the sense that something isn't quite right anymore. I've had men walk into my clinic thinking they're fine, only to find they've been living with chronic inflammation for years. And the worst part? Almost all of it could have been prevented if they had known just a few simple truths earlier. So if you're watching this and thinking, could this be me? Don't panic. You're not alone. You're just not supposed to figure this out on your own. Let's start uncovering the hidden habits, one by one, starting with the most common and most dangerous mistake I see every day. Let's start with the most common and most quietly destructive habit I see in older men: deliberately delaying ejaculation. It's something millions of men were never taught to question. In fact, many were encouraged to do it. You were told that lasting longer means being better in bed. You saw it in movies, heard it in locker room talk, read it in late-night magazine articles. So you began to train yourself. You clenched your muscles, you distracted your mind, you forced your body to hold back, over and over again. But here's what no one told you. Your prostate wasn't built for that kind of control. The prostate is a sensitive, fluid-producing gland. Its job is to release, not retain. And every time you delay climax on purpose, you create tension inside a system that's designed to flow. Over time, this repeated pressure builds up. The gland swells, inflammation begins. You may start to feel dull pain in your pelvis or perineum. You might notice discomfort after intimacy, or even pain when urinating. This isn't weakness, it's biology. What starts as a performance trick can quietly evolve into congestive prostatitis, chronic pelvic pain, or post-ejaculatory discomfort that steals the joy out of every sexual moment. And emotionally, it's devastating. Men begin to feel disconnected from their bodies, frustrated with their partners, and unsure why something that once brought pleasure now brings pressure. If this sounds familiar, it's not too late. You can change the script. Let your body do what it's meant to do. Release. Not out of urgency, not out of guilt, but out of respect. Because when you stop fighting your own biology, you give your prostate and your sex life the chance to heal. Now let's talk about something that seems harmless, even responsible, but can silently hurt your prostate: going too long without ejaculation. For many older men, this happens gradually. You're tired, your schedule is full, your partner might be dealing with health issues, or maybe, deep down, you've started believing sex just isn't important anymore. It's not because you've lost love or attraction, it's because you've been told that desire fades with age. And so you stop reaching, you stop initiating, you stop releasing. But here's the truth: your prostate needs activity. Just like your heart needs movement and your lungs need air, your prostate needs to function. When you go weeks, sometimes months without ejaculation, fluid builds up. That stagnation creates pressure, tension, and inflammation inside the gland. You may not feel it right away, but over time, this internal buildup can lead to discomfort, urinary changes, and even increase your risk of prostate disease. Multiple studies, including one published in JAMA, found that men who ejaculate 21 or more times a month had significantly lower rates of prostate cancer than those who did so fewer than 7 times. And it's not about sex addiction or indulgence, it's about basic biological maintenance. More than that, men who abstain for too long often report a quiet emotional shift, a loss of energy, a dip in mood, a feeling of detachment they can't quite name. That's because libido is tied to vitality. Your body doesn't want you to give up. It's waiting for you to remember that intimacy with a partner, or even with yourself, is still a living part of who you are. You're not done, you've just been paused. And the simplest act of release might just be the reset your body's been asking for. Let's shift to a habit that's been glamorized for decades, but could be secretly damaging one of the most sensitive parts of your body: rough or aggressive sex. For years, men have been taught that harder is better. You see it in films. You hear it in casual jokes. You may even feel pressured to match that intensity, to prove something, even when your body whispers, "Slow down." Here's the truth: your pelvic floor isn't built for punishment. This area, the muscles, nerves, and vessels beneath your abdomen, is responsible for sexual control, bladder function, core strength, and yes, pleasure. At the center of this delicate system sits your prostate. When you engage in intercourse that's too forceful, too long, or too intense, you're not just impressing your partner, you're stressing your system. Some men clench their muscles until they ache. Others ignore the soreness afterward. But deep inside, pressure is building. What often follows is chronic pelvic pain syndrome, a condition where even simple acts, sitting, urinating, or climaxing, become uncomfortable. And many men don't make the connection. They think it's a pulled muscle, or worse, they ignore it, until the pain becomes a part of their daily lives. One man I treated, Thomas, 68, said, "I used to feel powerful during sex, but now I dread it. The aftermath hurts more than the act." That's not what intimacy is meant to be. Sex is not a competition. It's not a performance. It's a conversation, a connection, a moment to feel, not fight. If you've been ignoring tension or pushing past pain, it's time to listen. Because choosing gentler doesn't mean giving up masculinity. It means honoring your body's wisdom and protecting your future. Now let's talk about something most men never mention, even to their closest friends or doctors: pain after ejaculation. It shows up in different ways: a dull ache in the lower abdomen, a sharp sting in the pelvis, a burning sensation that creeps in minutes after climax, and yet it's often met with silence. Why? Because many men feel ashamed. They think, maybe it's just stress, it'll pass. I'm just getting older. So they wait. They wait days, then weeks, sometimes months. They endure the discomfort, pretending everything's fine, but inside, their body is trying to speak, and they're not listening. Pain after ejaculation is not normal. It's not something to tough out or hide. It's a message, a warning, one that could point to prostatitis, pelvic nerve irritation, or even an early infection. One man I saw, George 71, waited over a year before seeking help, or waiting for years and years, waiting for a health. By the time he came in, intimacy had become a source of dread. His confidence had vanished, and his relationship with his wife? Strained and distant. But once we addressed the inflammation, changed his habits, and treated the root cause, his symptoms faded, and more importantly, so did the fear. Here's what I want you to know. Your body deserves to be heard. And pain, especially after something meant to bring connection and release, is never something to ignore. So if you've felt discomfort, pressure, or pain after sex, don't wait. Speak up, because healing starts the moment you stop hiding. Let's talk about a habit that feels like a solution, but can quietly turn into a serious risk: using sexual enhancers without medical guidance. For many men, it starts with a single bad night, a moment of doubt, a fear that maybe they're not who they used to be. So they reach for a pill, something from a gas station, a flashy online ad, or a friend's recommendation. No label warnings, no real instructions, just promises: stronger, faster, more manly. But behind the glossy packaging lies a dangerous truth. These substances are often unregulated, mislabeled, and mixed with compounds that can harm your heart, your hormones, and yes, your prostate. Some contain hidden doses of prescription drugs. Others interact dangerously with blood pressure or diabetes medications, and many cause inflammation in the pelvic region, leading to urinary retention, pain, or even acute prostatitis. But the damage isn't only physical. For some men, these pills become a psychological crutch. They start to believe they can't be intimate without them, that performance matters more than presence, that they're failing if they don't match a fantasy. It becomes less about connection and more about anxiety. Here's what I tell my patients. There's nothing wrong with needing help, but help should come with a full understanding of your body, not a blind gamble. A real doctor can evaluate your health, prescribe safely, and guide you toward options that support, not sabotage, your well-being. Because your health deserves clarity, your confidence deserves truth, and your prostate deserves more than shortcuts. Let's face a tough truth together. Most men wait too long. They feel fine, so they assume they are fine. They ignore the small signs, they avoid the checkups. Not because they don't care, but because deep down, they're afraid of what might be found. And I get it. The idea of a prostate exam feels uncomfortable. The thought of facing bad news feels overwhelming. So we tell ourselves, if I don't feel pain, there's nothing wrong. I'll go next year. I'm too busy now. But here's what I need you to hear. Prostate disease rarely screams. It whispers. A slightly weaker stream, more urgency at night, an extra second of hesitation before you urinate. These signs often seem harmless until they're not. Prostate cancer, benign enlargement, and chronic inflammation don't always start with pain. They start with silence, and by the time symptoms become obvious, treatment becomes more complicated, more expensive, and more life-altering. I've had strong, capable men sit across from me and say, "I wish I came in sooner." Some were lucky, some caught it just in time, others weren't as fortunate. But here's the good news. You don't have to wait for a wake-up call. A simple PSA blood test and digital rectal exam could give you peace of mind for an entire year. It takes minutes, and it could save years of health, strength, and independence. If you're over 45, especially with a family history, this isn't optional, it's essential, because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's showing up anyway, for yourself, for your loved ones, and for the life you still want to live. Here's a habit so small, most men don't think twice about it: holding in urine after sex. You finish an intimate moment, you lie back, maybe fall asleep, or you just tell yourself, "I'll go later, it's not urgent." But what seems harmless in the moment could be setting the stage for chronic prostate issues. Here's why. During sexual arousal and ejaculation, your body goes through several physiological shifts. The prostate swells slightly, the pelvic floor muscles tighten, the urethra, the tube carrying urine and semen, experiences increased pressure. Afterward, your body needs to reset, and one of the simplest, most effective ways it does that is by urinating. When you skip this step, you trap residual semen, bacteria, and pressure in your urinary tract. That trapped fluid becomes the perfect breeding ground for inflammation and infection. Over time, this can lead to prostatitis, urinary tract infections, and a lingering sense of discomfort after intimacy. Some men describe it as a heaviness or ache. Others say they feel like they didn't fully finish. Emotionally, it adds up. That post-intimacy piece turns into unease, and eventually into avoidance. But the solution is simple. Go pee, even if you don't feel the urge. Even if it means breaking the moment for a brief pause, this 1 minute of care can protect your prostate, clear your urethra, and prevent days or even months of discomfort. And if no one ever told you this before, don't blame yourself. Most men weren't taught. But now that you know better, you can do better, because sometimes the smallest habits make the biggest difference. Most men don't track their prostate health, not because they don't care, but because they've never been told how important it is. We track everything else: our weight, our blood pressure, even how many steps we take each day. But when it comes to one of the most sensitive, vital parts of the male body, the prostate, we tend to ignore it until it starts screaming. By then, it's no longer a whisper, it's a crisis. Here is a better way. Start paying attention before something goes wrong. You don't need an app or a fancy gadget, just a small notebook, or even a note on your phone. Each week, ask yourself, how many times did I wake up at night to urinate? Did I feel pressure, burning, or discomfort after intimacy? Was there any change in my urine stream or flow? Did I experience any new pelvic tension or pain? Tracking these small patterns gives you power. It helps you notice changes before they become problems. And if something does feel off, you'll have clear notes to bring to your doctor, not just vague memories. That one shift from reacting to observing can be life-changing, because early action doesn't just protect your prostate, it protects your independence, your confidence, your peace of mind. So if you do just one new thing this month, let it be this. Listen closely, take notes, Stay one step ahead. Your body has been working for you all these years. Now's the time to return the favor. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you is stirring. Maybe it's a memory, a question, a quiet fear you haven't voiced until now. Or maybe it's hope. Here's what I want you to know, clearly, firmly, and with full conviction: it is not too late. Not if you've delayed ejaculation for years, not if you've avoided intimacy out of pain or shame, not if you've used pills without asking your doctor or skipped every screening since your 40s. None of that means the door is closed. It simply means this: now is the time to open it. Your prostate has worked quietly in the background since you were a young man. It helped create life. It supported your identity. It carried your confidence, even when you didn't realize it. But like every part of us that's carried weight for decades, it eventually asks for care. Not punishment, not fear, just attention and intention. And when you start to give it that, your body notices. It relaxes, it heals, and more than that, you start to come home to yourself again. Because this journey is not just about avoiding cancer or fixing one organ. It's about reclaiming your right to feel, to connect, to enjoy intimacy again. Not as a performance, but as a quiet, human joy. The strongest men I've met are not the ones who power through pain. They're the ones who pause, who ask questions, who choose to care, even when it's uncomfortable. So here's what I ask of you. Pick one habit we talked about. Just one. Change it, not but because you're worth it. You deserve nights of peace instead of pain. You deserve mornings without worry. You deserve the freedom to age with strength, connection, and pride. And you are not alone. There are thousands of men, maybe even someone watching this video beside you, walking the same path. So, if this message touched something in you, leave a comment, share your story, let someone else know they're not the only one. Because when men talk, men heal. And healing, it starts right here with you.